Welcome to Comics with Dan, and in this video we're going to talk a little bit about lettering. Now, if you've watched this channel before, you know that lettering is something that I care a lot about. I think that you can get so creative and really, just add something extra to a book with good lettering. And at the same time, bad lettering can make a book borderline unreadable. When I was at Baltimore Comic-Con, I got to attend a panel on lettering, and the members of the panel were Carla Speed McNeil, the legendary John Workman, as well as Chris Iliopoulos. Listening to these three just trade stories and sort of share their experiences of being letterers in the industry it was a blast. Rather than share the entire 45-minute panel, I decided I'd grab a couple clips for you and show you those and introduce each one. In this first clip, we see Carla offering a very unique perspective on being a letterer versus being an artist.
Most art students have, everybody's got wonderful skills that they've obtained from painting and drawing, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes to actually putting words on pages, that takes a little bit of hand-holding sometimes, because that's not something that comes naturally when what you've done is illustrated or painted work. But once they realize that lettering is not writing, it's drawing, it gets a lot easier.
I think that those were some really valid points from Carla. In this clip, we're going to see John Workman offer some extremely wise words of advice. If I had included every single clip of John's, wise advice in this, then it would just basically be the entire panel. So I had to pick just a little bit. So hope you enjoy.
I found out years ago too that the mistakes that you make can really teach you. And I was making a lot of them early on. I remember a very early printing that I did for the balloon tails. Two characters intersected.
In this next clip, we'll see Chris liken lettering to graphic design, and at the same time just absolutely gushing over John Workman and how much he looks up to him. So it's a really nice moment.
I will say what's interesting is I went to school for graphic design and advertising, and I had gone to Marvel for an internship, and my whole portfolio was magazine design, cover design. And Ken Lopez, another letterer, who said, well, we're going to train you to be a letterer. And as I started to learn and research, I realized, John, I think you were more of like a graphic designer originally. Oh, yeah. And I think lettering is a form of graphic design and art put together. These days, everything is done digitally, and young people these days who are editors, they just think it's plopping word balloons on the page and not about designing the page and visually high problems. And I would constantly look at John's work and timeline, Richard Sarkis, and to know that, and I would watch how they were able to guide the eye through the page. So lettering is a form of storytelling, graphic design, and art all mixed in one. And I always tell the young guys that are coming to class, look at graphic design. Don't just throw things down. Look at what you're doing. Look at the art that you're provided. Something that you do for Walt Simonson is totally different from Frank Miller, and you should adapt to that and serve because you're a storyteller too. So I learned a lot from this man. Sorry to make it turn red.
I thought that this clip was really funny, and just getting to hear Chris's experience when he was very young working with a legend was a really cool one, so I hope you enjoy.
I like the I'll tell a fun story, just how digital is different from analog, I guess we'll call it analog lettering. So when I started at Marvel, they had an in-house lettering department. Our job was to, any corrections that came in, like so John misspelled the word like Workman, I would have to go back in and correct it. So we had to learn how to adapt to every person's style and learn how to letter like them, which is a great learning. At one point, I became head of the lettering department, and at that time, anybody read Weapon X, right, which is them? So Barry had Jim go back, letter the book. Jim did the logo, but he didn't like it, so I actually had to go back and redo the logo. So the Weapon X logo you see is done by me on staff for free, so I see no money ever for that. But I got to rip off Tom Warzikowski with the style of Wolverine letter.
You would have wanted to get paid too.
Look, everybody but Marvel wanted to get me paid. But so what would happen is Barry decided that he wanted to change his writing and drawing series. And I don't know if he got late or whatever it was, but he would show up at the office about 5 o'clock every day when I was ready to go home. And every day I asked him who's the best guy, or he asked everybody who's the best guy, and he's the Chris. So he would come and sit at my table with his original art and have me do lettering corrections. As he looked over my shoulder, making sure I didn't screw up. So you want to talk about pressure at work when you're 21 years old, you got Barry Bruce Smith, one of the greatest artists ever, staring at you, making sure you don't screw up. That's analog lettering.
In this clip, they talk a little bit about their preferred method of lettering, but also there's just a wonderful quote by Walt Simonson in here that John shares with us. So take a listen.
These children's books, and I hand letter digitally, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've done this. I've got a Cintiq, I do guidelines, and I letter blank, and I don't use a font. So that's my preferred method.
Well, that's the method that I use for most stuff I can do. The last thing I lettered on the boards was Walt Simonson. He insists that the lettering be there. Well, years ago, I sent Walt a Thor story, and his first words when he saw it was, "Now it's comics." And
In this clip, Chris talks about the speed in which he can generally letter a book. And then John talks about another story where he had a specific book that he was going to be lettering and talking about deadlines and relettering and that sort of thing.
By hand, I could do maybe 10 pages a day. I could do a whole book, maybe if I had a long day. One book I did a 30-page book overnight, which was insane. These days, I can, if I needed to, I could letter a book digitally in about 4 hours. Because then I have to redo it 4 times.
well, Walt Simonson called up one time. No, somebody from Marvel did. They asked me about lettering a book that Walt was going to be drawing. Not writing, but drawing. And I thought, oh, Walt, sure, okay. And then they warned me that the writer was renowned for rewriting and rewriting. He said to expect to letter the book twice for the money you get for one. And by the way, we reduced the money we're paying for lettering. They changed their mind on that later on. Walt called me up later on and advised me not to letter the book. He said, "Hell for you." So I turned them down on it.
I probably lettered that one. I actually did. I think it was I want to say it was a Hulk book that Walt was drawing, and I ripped you off like nobody's business. I just basically had Thor opened up and just.
In this clip, Carla compares the lettering being blended well with the art versus being invisible in the art, which are two very different things, and she puts a great perspective on it.
Everything has to flow smoothly. That's not the same thing as invisibility. You know, I mean, there are some word balloons that are more restrained. You know, typical, simple things. And no matter how playful you get with it, no matter what crazy thing you do, you know, you can't push it to the point of illegibility. Everything still has to come across. Everything still has to be, you know, clean and understandable. People will follow you a long way into the mysterious, but not with lettering so much. They want to be able to read it.
In this clip, Carla talks about the lettering being part of the composition of the art. And how important that can be. And then John pays her an extremely high compliment at the end.
If the lettering isn't part of the composition from the beginning, you run into that thing that all letterers love, which is no room for these yappy characters to have their say. And I encourage anybody who, you know, even if you are not an artist and you want just to be a letterer, you know, and some of the best letterers have started off as sign painters, stuff like that. It's best to have the lettering in place on your panels before or while everything else is getting sketched in. Because that way, you know, even if someone else letters it, and I have done a lot of things that I've drawn for someone else to letter, you know, there will be space. You can get creative by floating balloons into the gutters and stuff like that, and sometimes that does look fantastic. I do it all the time, but there will be space.
You're following Giants here. You'll pay more than in the same manner.
I thought these were all really interesting. The entire panel was great, and I was really happy to be able to attend it. It was my first panel of the day, but still possibly the best one that I attended. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like the video. If you did, make sure you subscribe, please, if you want to see more content like this. And thank you so much for watching.